Welcome back everyone to Beat the Game. My name's Steve and today we're going to have our episode 4 of multiplayer deck decks. And today we're going to showcase a few decks. We're going to talk mostly about the old school heroes and some of the new waves. But we're just going to show you guys how to deck build and maybe not how to deck build, but good suggestions for when you want to build for multiplayer Injustice. All right, so one of the big things I've noticed when we do play multiplayer, and I'm talking like not 2-player, but I'm talking like 3 or 4-player, often we find that we need a very strong Justice player to be able to keep threat down and everything else, and to control all the side schemes that keep popping up. So for this, I'm going to talk about a couple of characters. Like Captain America and Doctor Strange. There's also, Captain Marvel, Black Panther, but those, even Iron Man, some of these characters, they're most likely flip-floppy characters, which I'm going to talk to you about in the next, after this. But characters like Doctor Strange and Captain America, and I'm just bypassing, and because I didn't want to hit, or even Quicksilver. Quicksilver's another one Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch, those characters, let me just get them out. There you go. So characters like this that, you tend to want to stay in hero form, mostly throughout the game. You don't really want to, go down to alter ego all that much because they're just so much more powerful in hero form. So let's start building some decks for them. All right, so I think first things first, we're going to need some of the things that we need and really need to find is easy things to play. Depending, let's say we're playing on a multiplayer. Let's say we're playing 2-player or 3-player. Adding skilled investigators 3 times is a given. So this is an easy card to put on the table for free. It's gonna, every time a side scheme comes out, which is mostly likely gonna happen during a 3 or 4-player game, even a 2-player game. So this is gonna be very, very good. You can put 2, you can put 3. It's all depending to you, how many you wanna, how much you wanna thin out your deck. Also, depending on the character you're playing, if they have a lot of thwart events, I'm thinking, Quicksilver doesn't really have any thwart events. Captain America doesn't really have any thwart events. So maybe putting just one sense of justice in your deck is good for characters like Doctor Strange, who has the not the images of icon, the what is it called again? I forget what it's called. The thing that lets him look at the top card there. I forget what it's called. Whatever. And then Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch doesn't even have a thwart event. So just like characters that need that thing, or if you're playing with somebody that has some thwart potential, always give it to the other person, and then work together, and that could be a really, really interesting card. For characters like Captain America, Doctor Strange, Quicksilver, even Scarlet Witch, anybody that can ready themselves, giving yourself or another player that has a strong readying capability, a heroic intuition is almost a given now. It's going to make you thwart just so much more and so much more efficient. So that heroic intuition, maybe 1 copy, maybe 2 copy, depending who you're playing with. Obviously, if you're playing somebody like, if you're playing She-Hulk, well then, don't put that for yourself, or don't put that one for that player, because, it's not going to be worth it too much. All right, I'm always debating, and this is always going to be depending on the characters you're playing. If you're going up against Ultron, I highly recommend this. If not, then if it's a single scenario with a single scheme, most of the times this is going to be unnecessary in a 3-4 player game. You're better off with a thwart event or something like that. But this is also, it's pretty good against these scenarios that have these really low thresholds. I'm thinking Drang. I'm thinking even what's his face there? The Collector goes so fast, and all the other ones, even Zola, their thresholds are pretty low. This can always come in handy. That +4 buffer is always strong. But that's always depending on I always like the characters you're playing. And I think the last really strong upgrade we're going to be wanting to run is from the Venom pack. Is those sonic rifles. You want to run at least 2 or 3. If you're running a character like Captain America that has restricted items, so definitely put in a side holster so you can have a couple of these in to play with, including your shield and stuff like that. But if you're running a character that doesn't have restricted weapons, take out that side holster and add another sonic rifle. That's going to be really efficient when other people want to go down, because you're probably not going to go down as much, but when the other people want to go down, it's going to help them, so you don't have to, oh my god, okay, he's going to scheme, and then okay, then I have to control this now, and then I think that's going to help it as well. And plus the sonic rifle, you can just use it when you need it. You can have the villain confused for one turn. Oh, he's doing the advance. All right, well, whatever. We confused them. We're good. So those are good situations that you can put these in. All right, aside from that, so for allies, we're not going to run a lot of allies. There's only one ally that's worth running in multiplayer. It is Spider-Man. All right, so unless somebody's playing Spider-Man, definitely you want to run Spider-Man, Peter Parker as the Justice ally. Removing 9 threat or 12 threat in a 4-player game is just broken. Plus another 2 when he thwarts. So that's 9, 11, or 14, or 12 and 14. That is extremely solid and really, really good. In a 2-player game, it's still good. Not as good, but still, it's 2 for 6 and 8 maybe. So it still has a lot of work. But definitely 3 to 4 players, this is definitely a high priority card. In a 2-player game, it's still good, but again, depending on what hero you're playing, might not be as a must-have card. All right, now let's look at the events that we're gonna want to run. All right, so this is one of my favorite new events, making an entrance. You definitely want to run 3 copies of this in that multiplayer deck, because once you do get that +2 thwart and you get to heal 2 damage from your hero, again, you want to stay in hero form as long as you can. So this is going to make making an entrance very, very efficient for these types of decks that want to stay in hero form, because you get that. It's basically a first aid and a thwart 2 for 1. It's insane value. It's a double duty. For all these Avenger characters, I really like running interference. Of course, it only affects the main scheme, but when you're playing Justice, you have enough to remove threat from side schemes and everything. But controlling that main scheme, it's 2 for 4 if you're playing on Expert, and 2 for 5 if you're on stage 3, on the final stage. So 2 for 5 is super solid. Can't really go wrong with that. So 2 for 5, definitely a big number, worth it. All right, then after that you want to run at least 3-4 Justices, just again for that consistency. And the 4 Justice, again, if you have the sense of justice out, you're always going to get your mental. And again, depending on what character you're running, you might want to adjust this. But I think these are really, really good. And then finally, the last 2 events are going to be the Crisis Averted. Again, this is a big thwart event. 6 threat, and then you can ignore crisis icon, so if ever you're in trouble, it's good. It also has the mental that can give you the kicker for the other things. Now you're probably noticing, like, Steve, why aren't you running like Turn the Tides and what's the other one there that clear the area or multitasking? As much as I like multitasking is great for 2 players. Once you're getting to 3 players, it can get a little weird. It's not a bad card. I just think you need something that has a little bit more kick to it. Again, unless you're playing a Ms. Marvel deck where multitasking is 4 and 4, then that's amazing because she has the shrink. But with all these other regular characters, I don't really foresee you needing that. And same thing for Clear the Area. It's 1 for 2 threat, which is not bad, but you'd only get the draw card if there's no threat on the main. So again, at a higher level count, it's more tricky to pull off. So again, it's like, okay, you could put it in your deck, but then you're not putting in a full-on big Justice event. And then the resources is 2 powers of and the 3 double resources. Justice is expensive, guys. It's expensive. So you really want to have those those double resources to pay for those events, to do 2 or 3 of these events in your turn, depending on the hero you're running. Now, you're probably wondering as well, Steve, what was I going to say? You're not putting any attack events or stuff like that. Why aren't you running like skilled strikes and stuff like that? Well, when you're running a 3 or 4 player game, most of the time, if you are the Justice player, I really recommend focusing your attention on threat removal. That in itself should be your main focus. Threat control. Now, if you focus on that one specific thing, and then when everything's under control, then you can use your basic attack, and you can use some of your characters' attack events, your signature cards attack events. Again, it's always going to depend on the character you're playing and what the scenario is going to look like. But there's some scenarios that you just get overrun with threat. So if you focus as the Justice player on threat removal of all kinds, and then you kind of support the other guys. Hey guys, can you help me out this turn? I don't have the cards this turn. So that's going to be really good for working as a team. And that's why, giving heroic intuition to somebody else, or a sense of justice, so they can just play their thwart event for cheaper, is going to be very efficient for team building. So working together to maintain threat and maintain so. Now, the only thing where this would be not as efficient is basically versus Ronin, because against Ronin, everyone has to go in on damage if you want to stand a slight chance. So, but again, it can be done in Justice, but it's not this build. This is very much for threat control, staying you in the game as a hero for most of the game. All right, so that is the deck for that. And then let's look at the second type of deck that we can do for multiplayer for those other characters that like to flip-flop a lot, that have a lot more potential in Justice, but as alter ego sides. All right, so now let's talk about other heroes that are more flippy-floppy heroes, which I like to call. So some of these characters you'll really want to be able to flip down often. I'm talking She-Hulk, I'm talking Black Widow, Wasp, Black Panther, even Captain Marvel, who has an amazing draw potential in alter ego. So these are characters that you can basically stay in alter ego or have more powerful events and interactions with threat in alter ego. So let's take a look at some of the cards that we definitely want to see in these builds. All right, so for some of these characters, obviously some of these characters are a little bit more unique. So some things you'll add, some things you'll remove, depending on the hero you're building. But this is a good foundation to build off of for these characters. All right, so foiled. Because you're going to be wanting to spend, time in alter ego, sometimes you won't have the villain confused or something like that. So foiled is always very good, or the villain schemes out of turn. He gets a boost of 3, then oh my gosh, there you go, perfect. Foil is 0 for 3, and you can use it in alter ego as well. So this sometimes I like to put 2 or 3, depending on how often or how long I'm going to be spending my time in alter ego. It's a 0 cost card with a lightning resource. So again, Captain Marvel loves that. Even Tony Stark, loves that. But we'll talk about him and Ant-Man in a little bit for them. All right, so again, these also very powerful Justice events for lay down the law, because it's just 1 for 4. It's just the cheapest card that we have so far for Justice for that much threat removal. And you can remove it from anything, from any scheme, as long as you're flipping. So again, since you're going to be wanting, like even with She-Hulk, you flip down and you have 6 card hand, you flip back up, bam, sense of justice, deal 2 damage, and then remove 4 threat. It feels good. And that's just for flipping. So that's really solid. Black Widow, same thing, she'll want to put out some preparations, get ready, flip up, keep that threat under control if she hasn't been able to use covert ops. And same thing for for the Wasp, because she can actually recycle those lay down the laws as she's flipping down. And Black Panther, obviously, while drawing more cards in alter ego, is always solid. Since most of these guys are Avengers, I just put 1 running interference, just for control on the main. and then 2 for justice. Again, you can adapt this as much as you want, but again, this is a good baseline to kind of just guide you through what you would need. And again, we have 1 crisis averted. So again, we're not running too many events because we're going to be focusing more on permanent protection and permanent justice. All right, so some of the cards that obviously we're going to come back to is obviously the skilled investigators. You want to thin out your deck, so when you do have a chance, you definitely get your big thwart events and stuff like that. Again, sense of justice, 1 or 2 in your deck depending on who you're playing with, and then people that can help. Counterintelligence, very, very strong. Oh shoot, well, he wants to scheme for 3, or the threat is going up naturally by 3. Bam. All right, so I get to counter that. And if you're Black Widow and you're an alter ego, you can just safe house 29 that back and then replay it again to draw a card. So again, recycling those cards. This is going to be actually more important here because since we are going to be spending more time in alter ego, we really want to have as much maneuverability or enough room to be able to go down to alter ego and not worry too much about the main scheme popping. So under surveillance is going to be a great card that is going to help you with that. Again, after that, we got the heroic intuition. Some of these characters like Wasp, like Black Widow, they can do wonders with this card. Even Black Panther and Captain Marvel, very, very solid. So that's very, very good. Again, She-Hulk, you wouldn't want to play that on a She-Hulk character. You probably wouldn't want to put it down on some of those other characters too that are... So it just depends who you're playing with and what character that you're playing. But obviously, if you're playing with like a Captain America, yeah, put it in your deck so Captain America can help with thwarting when he needs it, or Doctor Strange, or whoever, Quicksilver, or Scarlet Witch, whatever character has your fancy. So that's very, very interesting. And again, adding a bunch of guns that can confuse just to make sure that you always get one. So in this one, I opted to put 3. The reason why is because, again, we're going to be flipping to alter ego. Some of these characters have ways to confuse, like Captain Marvel has Spider-Woman and Black Widow has the Covert Ops. But the other characters that don't have access to confusion, 3 of these is almost a must to make sure that threat remains under control while other people deal with damage. You deal with keeping the threat under control in your own way by flipping, by playing all these very powerful cards. Again, characters like She-Hulk would want to add an interrogation room because when you're flipping, you're doing 2 damage, you kill a minion, now you do 2 damage and remove a threat for free. So again, super, super good. It's not as great, but it's good. Another one with Black Panther because he has that natural ability as well. After you defeat a minion, it doesn't say how you have to. It doesn't say after you attack and defeat a minion. So even Nadia Van Dyne has retaliate. Well, the retaliate defeats a minion. You can exhaust that and remove a threat. So that's really, really good with some of these characters that have the retaliates, that have those combos. So a lot of people are like, oh, I forgot about that card. Yeah, if you're in Justice, and if you're dealing damage passively, why not? It's good for those types of characters. And again, good old Spidey Man. Again, I'm not running a lot of allies, but obviously you could run. You could change this a little bit. Oh, I don't want to run too many events. I'd rather run allies. I don't want to for Justice. I'd rather have Coulson, or I'd rather have so he can block for other people. He can remove through threat, and I can stay down longer. And again, that's always up to you what you want to do. And then I have the 3 doubles and the 2 powers of justice. Now, this is a 40 card deck. Obviously, if you're going to be flipping down, you're going to get more cards. I'm not a big fan of these in multiplayer, but because they are a little bit slower. But if you can get them down turn 1 and you can get 2 or 3 of them down, those beat cops can start doing a lot of work every turn. And oh, there's a big minion. Well, you know what? I'll sacrifice my beat cop and just kill it. So it's very good cards that have double duty, but if you're playing in a multiplayer game, normally beat cops I don't recommend too much because, again, they're a little bit slow. It's 4 cards, so most of them it's going to be almost your entire hand to remove 1 threat. a turn, it's a little slow. So it can, it can really outrace you if you're playing those beat cops. But again, if you have a lot of threat prevention and you have the resources, I'm talking Black Panther, Captain Marvel, where you can push that down for one card, then definitely, include those in your deck. So these are some of the cards. Again, if you notice, not too much on those one cost events. They're very powerful, but they're very good for solo play. We're looking at multiplayer cards here. That makes sense. So that is it. Jessica Jones as well is another good ally to add, especially if you're going up against one of those rich scenarios in side schemes. And those are all cards that can really help. All right, we're just gonna take 2 seconds, and then we're gonna talk about Iron Man and Scott Lang and maybe some of the Guardians as well. Now these characters are pretty special. Like Scott Lang, he's mostly on the I don't want to really flip on the heroes. I don't want to flip to alter ego too often side, because once he gets his helmet, he's all set. But he plays differently in Justice versus like another hero that wants to stay in hero form all the time. And even for Iron Man Justice, you do have now the sonic rifles that can add to your equipment, but sometimes your Iron Man deck will take a little bit longer to resolve. So for Scott Lang, obviously the 3 lay down the laws. If you're playing Justice with the Ant-Man, well, that is definitely going to be helping you. He's got tons of damage just by flipping with his ants, and he has a lot of interactions that happen a little bit more efficient than Wasp when it comes down to damaging and threat control, because he does one naturally when he flips, which is very interesting. So it's a big difference between Wasp and Hank Pym, and even Iron Man. So Iron Man, he's gonna want to spend a lot of time in alter ego. So, but once he has his full suit, then you don't really want to include cards like Lay Down the Law for him, but you'd rather include cards like Foiled, so he can still kind of keep control of the threat while he's building up, and then later on he can use these lightning resources to really put in some damage. So guys, so that is it. That is the multiplayer deck text that we're talking about for the Avengers. Obviously, if you're talking about Guardians, you can forget the rifle if you want, and just add those Think Fast, which are just amazing. And then the builds kind of build themselves for Guardians. It's very similar. You just take out anything that says Avenger, and then you just add those the Guardian cards. So yeah, so that's not too bad and not too shabby. So I hope this, guys, will help you, in your next game, multiplayer game. Think about, oh yeah, maybe I should add some of these, or maybe I know, like, oh, I've been playing this, but yeah, I haven't been really focusing on Justice while I'm playing. I'm also trying to do damage. And I think that's the trap. If you're focusing on a multiplayer game, you should be able to do a couple of the damage things. But if your main objective is thwarting, then you should focus on that. And I think building like that, you're going to be more successful in your campaigns and stuff like that, because you will be able to be more focused. And I think focusing in a multiplayer game is very important. Have one character that kind of goes, he can thwart, he can defend, he can thwart and he can attack, and then the other character focuses on damage, and then the other character focuses on threat, and then there you go. So then you have, like in that 3-player game, you have that sweet spot, and then one player that plays leadership that puts blockers out for everyone. So then you have that kind of synergy as a team, and it makes it very interesting. So guys, I really hope you like this video. This is Steve, Multiplayer Deck Tech, episode 4, Justice. Alright guys, catch you next time, and I hope this video will help you beat the game. Ciao.